I never thought I'd uncover something that would change how I saw my entire town. Something my grandpa hid for decades. Growing up, he was the quiet type. The kind of man who kept his emotions locked away like they were fragile antiques. He spent most of his time in his darkroom, developing photos that no one was ever allowed to see. As a kid, I used to sneak to the basement door and watch the red glow from under it, wondering what secrets he was hiding in those old rolls of film. When I asked, he'd just say, "Some pictures aren't meant for everyone." I never understood what that meant, until after he died. Grandpa passed away peacefully last winter at the age of 87. My parents asked me to help clean out his house since I was closest to him and had spent the most time there. It felt strange walking through his empty rooms, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. In his basement, I found his old darkroom, untouched. Dust covered everything. The air smelled like old chemicals and memories. I almost turned back. But something inside me said, "Look closer." I opened the cabinets and found dozens of sealed envelopes labeled only with dates, spanning nearly 60 years. But one envelope caught my eye. It was different. No date. Just a single word written in trembling handwriting. Truth. I hesitated before opening it. Inside were black and white photos, dozens of them. Each one showed our town, but not how I remembered it. The streets looked the same, but something was off. In the backgrounds of nearly every photo were people. Groups of men in identical coats standing near old government trucks, faces hidden. Some carrying what looked like crates or barrels marked with strange symbols. In one photo, I recognized our local park, but instead of kids playing, the field was cordoned off with warning signs. Another showed the lake, completely drained, with what appeared to be a large metal structure buried beneath it. At first, I thought maybe Grandpa had been working for the local newspaper. Maybe these were photos of some construction project. But the further I looked, the stranger they became. There were people in hazmat suits near the forest on the edge of town. One image showed a house fire I vaguely remembered hearing about as a kid. But behind the smoke, you could see a man in the same black coat, watching from a distance, expression unreadable. Every photo had a quiet darkness to it, like Grandpa had been documenting something he shouldn't have seen. That night, I took the envelope home. My curiosity overpowered my fear. I started searching online, old newspaper archives, town records, anything that could explain what was in those photos. But I found almost nothing. Whole sections of the town's historical records had been digitally lost. Old editions of the local paper were missing from the year the photos were taken. It was like someone had gone out of their way to erase parts of our history. The next morning, I showed my mom the pictures. Her face went pale. "Where did you get these?" she asked quietly. When I told her, she looked terrified. "You shouldn't have found those," she whispered. Then she told me to burn them. Burn them. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't. She refused to explain why, just kept saying Grandpa had done enough damage. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about her reaction made me realize there was more to this. I had to find out what my grandpa had seen. I remembered Grandpa used to keep a safety deposit box at the town bank. After calling around, I discovered it was still registered in his name, and as his next of kin, I could access it. My hands shook as the banker opened the metal drawer. Inside was another envelope, along with an old cassette tape and a letter addressed to me. The letter was short but heartbreaking. It read, "If you're reading this, it means they never stopped watching. Don't trust the officials. Don't trust anyone connected to the town council. The truth is buried, but you have the evidence now. Protect it." My heart was racing. I took the envelope and tape home. The envelope contained more photos. This time, closer shots. Aerial pictures of what looked like the forest clearing on the edge of town. The ground was disturbed, with long rectangular shapes that looked eerily like trenches or graves. My throat went dry. The cassette tape had no label. When I played it, the voice that came through was my grandfather's, weak but deliberate. He said, "In 1959, something happened in this town. It was supposed to be a simple waste disposal project run by the state. But the chemicals weren't just toxic, they were experimental. The government was testing them here, in our soil, on our water. When people got sick, they said it was just bad luck. When children died, they blamed it on the cold. They buried the truth under new streets, new houses. And when a few of us found out, they made sure no one believed us. Some disappeared. Some were paid off. I kept the proof because I knew someday someone would need it. I paused the tape, completely frozen. My family had lived in this town for generations. My parents, my grandparents, everyone. And all this time, we'd been walking over ground poisoned by lies. I played the tape again. Grandpa's voice cracked near the end. They came for me once in '65. Told me to hand over everything I'd documented. I gave them copies. They thought that was all I had. But I kept the originals. I thought maybe the truth would matter someday. Maybe to you. I didn't realize it then, but someone must have been watching me already. Because the very next morning, my car tires were slashed. Later that day, I noticed a black SUV parked near my house, engine running, but no one inside. Every time I looked, it was there. At night, my phone buzzed with unknown calls that hung up as soon as I answered. I started to panic. Who were these people? Were they connected to what Grandpa warned me about? I told my friend Caleb. He's a journalist. He didn't believe me at first, until I showed him the photos and the letter. He agreed to help me dig deeper. We traced the coordinates from the aerial pictures Grandpa had taken, and one night, we drove to the edge of the forest. The area was fenced off, marked no trespassing, but we climbed in anyway. Deep inside the woods, we found what looked like an old concrete structure buried in moss. It wasn't big, just a few feet wide, but it had a rusted metal door half buried in dirt. We pried it open with a crowbar. The smell hit first, metallic, chemical, and old. Inside were broken shelves, glass vials, and rusted equipment. There was a faded government seal on one of the walls, barely visible through grime. I took pictures, but then Caleb noticed something scratched into the concrete. Project Ashwood, terminated 1961. Below that, written faintly in chalk, were the words, "They're still here." We both froze. Still here? Did that mean people? Or something else? Suddenly we heard movement outside, crunching leaves, footsteps. We turned off our flashlights, holding our breath. The footsteps grew closer, and a shadow passed the doorway. Then another. 2 figures, both carrying flashlights, scanning the area. Caleb whispered, "Run!" We bolted through the trees, hearts pounding. I didn't look back until we reached the car. The black SUV was parked by the forest entrance. We drove all night. Caleb uploaded copies of the photos and the tape to an encrypted drive. But the next morning, when we checked the files, they were gone. Deleted. Every single one. My computer was wiped and Caleb's phone wouldn't turn on. He said maybe we'd been hacked. I think it was something else. 2 days later, Caleb called me in a panic. He said someone had broken into his apartment, taken his camera, his laptop, everything. That night, he left town. I haven't seen him since. Now I'm sitting here with Grandpa's last letter, the only proof I have left. I can't show anyone. No one will believe me. The town's records are still missing, and anyone who tries to dig deeper mysteriously moves away. But every time I pass the old forest, I feel like something's watching. Last week there was construction near the edge of town. When I asked what they were doing, a worker said they were replacing old pipelines. I watched as they dug into the ground, and for a second, I saw it. Metal, deep under the dirt. The same structure from Grandpa's photos. They covered it up again quickly, pretending I hadn't seen it. Now I understand why Grandpa hid those photos. Why he was always so afraid. Why he told me some pictures aren't meant for everyone. He knew the truth about this town was never supposed to surface. And maybe, just maybe, he hoped I'd have the courage to expose it. I've started scanning what's left of his photos and saving them in secret folders online. If you're reading this, if something happens to me, check the coordinates north of Pine Creek. That's where it began. That's where they buried everything. Grandpa's photos didn't just expose an old mystery. They revealed a truth my family had been forced to forget. One that this town still tries to hide. And now, they know I know. If I disappear, remember this. Our history isn't lost. It's been buried. And every buried thing eventually comes to light.